Talk for movie fans for this Friday, April the 12th, 2013. And this is your movie show that gives you all the latest movie news with insight into what it all means. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief over here at AMC Movie News. And as you can tell, I am not in the AMC Movie News studios. I'm actually in my man cave on my way back to Vegas. Now, as some of you may remember, I was in Vegas this past week for the National Association of Broadcasters event, which was a lot of fun. And I'm now heading back to Vegas for another week for CinemaCon. Now, for those of you who don't know what CinemaCon is, in basic terms, is an annual event where the movie studios come and show off all their upcoming movies this year to the movie theater chains. So people like AMC. And it's always a lot of fun. I always have a good time. And I'm going to be doing the show this week from Las Vegas and letting you guys know everything that's going on at CinemaCon. I'm going to let you guys see all the stuff that I'm going to be seeing. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. But for today, there wasn't a lot of stuff in the movie news feeds today, so I thought I would take this opportunity and just do Mailbag. Now, what Mailbag is listen, if you've got a topic or a question that you would like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. And every day we pick out a few questions from the Mailbag and address them on air, and your question can get on air. So let's start with this. Rusty McPeters writes, "Hi, just started watching you guys on YouTube and got to say I love the show." Thank you very much, Rusty. "Anyway, about a year ago, I heard a rumor that a fourth Matrix film was going to happen, but haven't heard a thing since. I love the first Matrix, but the second and third just fell short in my eyes. Is a fourth film possible?" Well, whenever you get into discussions about should a certain movie have a sequel made, a lot of times the objection that some people come up with is this movie doesn't need a sequel. And my argument against that has always been no movie needs a sequel or needs to be made. It's a question about whether or not the audience wants one. Now, and oftentimes, like in The Hangover, me and my friend often have this debate about The Hangover. He says, The Hangover didn't need a sequel. There's nothing left to tell. But to me, it wasn't about needing more story to be told, because of course the narrative part of The Hangover is not the important thing. I said, for me, I want another Hangover film because I just love these characters and I want to visit with them again. I want to see what they're up to and hang out with them again for another 2 hours in a movie theater. And that's why I want another one. But in the case of The Matrix, I think it's a little bit different. You see, The Matrix really doesn't, not only does The Matrix not need another film, I don't think there's any room for another film. Like, the way The Matrix ended, it was pretty final. Like, this is it. It's done. The war was ended. Neo died. Trinity died. Spoiler alert. It's done. I mean, it's not just a matter of not needing another story. It's a matter of, I don't think there's anything you can do unless you completely either, number one, go with a prequel, and generally speaking, I don't like prequels, or unless you go and destroy the continuity of what happened in the previous three films. I just don't see any way you can do another film. And on top of that, from what I understand, the Wachowski brothers, or the Wachowskis, I should say, have no desire to make another one. I have not heard that they really are wanting to make another one, nor that the studio is really interested in making another one. So, number one, I wouldn't want another Matrix film. I don't think it should be done. And number two, I don't think they have any plans on making it. All right, let's move on to the next email. Kenneth Hernandez writes, "I really love the book series of Percy Jackson, and I am really happy that The Sea of Monsters is getting to be released. But have plans been made to make the rest of the books into movies? Like Harry Potter was confirmed for all books to be adapted after the first one was released? I wish they would develop them because the series has great potential to be a popular series." Well, let's start with this. I think whenever a studio makes a film, they're always hoping it could be a franchise. I mean, and especially when they're making like book one of a series of books, I think they want and they plan on making all of them because they want to have franchises. Franchises are gold mines to studios. But let's look at like that Dragon book series that started with Aragon. The studio made Aragon, and trust me, they planned on making all of them. It was their plan to make Aragon and then to make the other ones. But the problem was Aragon was such a bad movie and it bombed so badly that they just couldn't. So even though they planned on making all of them into movies, they just couldn't proceed because the first movie was a failure. And as far as Harry Potter goes, yeah, they made the first one and they planned on making all of them. But I guarantee you, if the first Harry Potter movie was terrible and nobody went to go see it, they would have scrapped the plans to make all the other books as well. And I think the same can be said of Percy Jackson. When they made the first Percy Jackson, they did it with the intent of making all of them. But the first Percy Jackson, well, I think it was a pretty good movie. I didn't love it, but I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I wanted to see another one. I'm glad they're making that the sequel is coming out. But it didn't do great at the box office. So it caused a lot of discussion and a lot of debate on whether or not they should move ahead and make the second one. I'm glad they did. I hope it's more popular than the first one was, because I believe in this franchise. I thought the first one deserved better than it got at the box office, and here's hoping that this one will do it. All right, next question from Ryan Keeney, who writes, "Hi guys, I just started watching the show about a week ago, and I have to say I love it." Thank you so much, Ryan. "My question concerns the possible Justice League film. Is there a chance that characters besides the 5 you mentioned before, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern, could be in the movie that are not those big 5? Best example is how Avengers had Hawkeye and Black Widow. DC could have characters like Cyborg, who is now in the New 52 DC Comics, a member of the Justice League, or Green Arrow. Wondering your thoughts on this." Well, what Ryan's referring to is there was a report before it came out that the Justice League film had been put on the shelf. There was a report that came out that said the current Justice League script had 5 members of the Justice League. And it were those that he mentioned. It was Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern. And, that had a lot of discussion started about, well, why did they leave these other characters out? Why no Aquaman? Why no Hawkman? Stuff like that. But let's put it this way. If Warner Brothers moves ahead with a Justice League film, which we have no idea if they will or not, they're waiting to see how Man of Steel does. But if they do, I personally believe, now I haven't talked to anybody at Warner Brothers about this, so this is just my opinion, okay? I personally believe they will stick with those big 5. I believe they will go with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern. I believe those are the 5 they're going to do, because those are the 5 that have the biggest chances for success to spin off into their own individual films and things like this. And then they will build from there. Because DC and Warner Brothers right now is having a problem getting their characters to catch on with the average movie-going fan base. And I think if they did do a Justice League, they need to start with these big 5. The ones that they believe have the most credibility right now, the most popularity, and have the best chances for success. Let's face it, Cyborg does not. Cyborg, out of all the characters I just mentioned, would by a mile, be the least popular or the least well-known. And I think they'll want to start strong. And I think that makes sense, because by starting strong, you give these other characters like Aquaman, like Cyborg, like Hawkman, like Green Arrow, you give them a better chance for success later on if you can start strong with the big 5. So there are no plans right now, but I believe that if they move ahead with Justice League, I do believe that they will stick, and they should stick with those big 5 that we already mentioned, hopefully to set up that you can, from a position of strength, bring in those other characters that comic book fans like us know and love so well. All right, the next question comes from Peter Morehouse, who writes, "Hey guys, hope everyone is having a good day. The question I have is not really about movies exactly, but the movie industry itself. This might be difficult to answer being in the position you are in, but do you think movie critics have too much power over what audiences choose to see when they go to a theater? Obviously, fans of a specific TV, comic, or some other source material will most likely see that movie, but is it possible that those critiquing films maybe have too much power in how movies make some of their money?" Thanks a lot for the question, Peter, and that's a great question. Here's my position has always been on this, the position of film critics, stuff like that. And I'm not really a film critic. I mean, I guess in a way I am, but I'm not really a film critic. I'm more of a film pundit than anything else. But I've always believed that the film critic is absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. One, because they're not biased. Unless they're being paid by a studio, which, the vast majority of them are not. Like, for instance, I'm not biased when it comes to any movies, unless one of my friends is making it. When one of my friends has made a movie, before I review it or anything like that, I always say, hey, just so you know, a friend of mine made this, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But other than that, I have no bias when it comes to this type of stuff. Because, when The Phantom Menace came out, I don't make any more money if The Phantom Menace does well, and I don't lose any money if it does poorly. So I have no bias. I can simply watch it and tell you exactly what I think. And it doesn't matter if you go see it or not. I can just tell you what I think because I have no bias. I have no invested interest in the film. Now, some might say, well, if you're a fan of Star Wars and you're biased, well, no, actually, I'm a massive fan of Star Wars, but I hated The Phantom Menace. So there's absolutely no bias. And for most critics, there is no bias. Because unless people say all the time, oh, film critics are biased. What are you talking about? Are you telling me that if this movie makes more money, the studio's going to write a check to that film critic? That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Okay. Just put that out there right now. It doesn't happen. But what is the alternative, really? So, because if you don't have film critics, people who have no vested interest on whether a movie is good or not, giving you their unbiased opinion, just telling you, hey, look, I saw the movie and here's what I thought. Then what else do you have to base your money spending on? Because let's face it, going to the movies these days costs money. You got to put out money, your money, to go and see a movie. So what are you going to base it on? Are you going to base it on the guys who don't stand to gain from you seeing it or not, which are the film critics? Or are you going to base it on the studio who has everything to gain from you going to see the movie? Like the studio makes money if you go see it, so they're going to try to get you to go see it, which is their job. So they put out a trailer. Are we saying that the only voices you should listen to in making your money spending decision is the only voice you should listen to the voice that stands to profit from your decision? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because studios, we've seen it before, studios will lie in their trailers. They'll put scenes in trailers that aren't even in the movie, or they can cut it together. Look, let's go back to Phantom Menace again. Phantom Menace, I maintain, has the greatest movie trailer ever made. I think that first trailer from the Phantom Menace, best trailer I've ever seen. But obviously, but then I know some people like it, and that's great. Personally, I did not like the Phantom Menace at all. So, if I strictly based my movie-going decision on the trailer, the voice of the people who stand to profit from my going to see the movie, that seems skewed. I think it's much more fair and much more balanced to have people who don't stand to gain anything like me. For instance, if you go see Kick-Ass 2, I don't get a check. If you don't go see Kick-Ass 2, I don't get I don't lose any money. So it doesn't matter to me if you do or don't go see Kick-Ass 2. So when I see Kick-Ass 2 and I tell you if I like it or not, you're just hearing from a guy who has nothing to gain and nothing to lose from whether you choose to go see it. And that's why I believe it's absolutely crucial, not only for film critics, but for a wide variety of film critics to exist. Look, I tell people, never just base whether you see a movie on what I say. Never, ever do that, because I am one voice. I am one opinion. What I always encourage people to do, and this is why I love the website Rotten Tomatoes so much, I encourage people, look, film critics are a really different group of people. One film critic is completely different from the next film critic, who is completely different from the next film critic, who is completely different from the next film critic. And if you don't agree with that, then you don't know many film critics. Because trust me, there are a wide variety of film critics. A lot of my friends are film critics. Some of them are suit-wearing, proper, well-grammar-speaking dudes. Some of them are Black Sabbath t-shirt-wearing, long-haired dudes with completely different opinions. So I always encourage people, listen to what the voice on whole of the film critics is, because they represent a wide variety of tastes, a wide variety of interests. And I believe it brings balance to helping you as a consumer make your money spending decisions. So yeah, personally, I really do like the world of film critics. I don't think they have as much power as they should. And really, film critics only have as much power as you give them. If you choose to listen to film critics, then they have a little bit of power. If you don't listen to film critics, then they have no power. So really, film critics have no inherent power. They only have power in as much as you, as an individual consumer, choose to listen to their opinions. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthy thing. And I think people would enjoy movies, and it would force studios to make better movies if more people listen to the film critics before spending their money. I believe it would force studios then to make better movies. That's just my opinion. And if you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments section below. All right, our next question comes from Kevin Hooker, who writes, "Hey guys, I still enjoy watching your show after a few months. It never gets boring." Well, thanks so much, Kevin. I had a question about the direction that Man of Steel is going. When I think of Superman or Batman, I think of heroes. I think of someone that the people love and is the classic hero. The spin that Nolan put on Batman by making him this vigilante that took the fall for something was an interesting turn. It wasn't what people expected, and that's all well and good, but I don't think it's good for Superman. Superman, to me, isn't the kind of character that they're going to portray. People don't like him. He gets arrested, etc. What's wrong with just having a Superman movie be about Superman saving the day and action instead of trying to make him more vigilante than hero? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Kevin. With Batman, you got to understand, the Batman world took a major turn 20 plus years ago with the release of The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book. That really changed the tone of comic books. And ever since then, really, the comic book Batman has been a dark some people think he's a hero. Some people think he's a menace. And there's this confusion about him. And I think that's part of the comic book world. So the fact that Nolan brought that to the big screen, I think was faithful to the comic book. Now, Superman is a little bit different. But remember, we're talking about a Superman origin story. I don't think that Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan are setting up Superman in Man of Steel to be a vigilante. I think the reason he gets arrested, remember, this is his origin story, being on planet Earth. We hear it in Kevin Costner's, dialogue, who plays Pa Kent, all right? And basically set it up that, look, Clark, people aren't going to know what to make of you. I'm paraphrasing, of course. People aren't going to understand you. They're going to be afraid of you at first because you're something completely different. We fear what we don't understand. And I think the reason we see Superman getting arrested in the beginning, whatever, or in the trailer, is not because he's a vigilante that people are after. I think it's either one, because I think General Zod takes over the world and commands the world to arrest Superman. That may not be the case. But the other thing is that it's really what Pa Kent was alluding to, that just people don't understand him right now. I think as we move forward in the new Superman series, I think we're going to see him more just portrayed as the publicly loved hero. But I think it makes sense, and I believe it is faithful to the comic and the spirit of Superman for them to go in this direction that right now public doesn't know. Look, in our real world, if some alien being who could crush mountains with his bare hands and fly and shoot heat lasers out of his eyes suddenly appeared, we would not know what to do with him. We would be very confused and divided as to what is to be done about this alien creature. And so I believe it's faithful to the spirit of Superman that they do that for now, but I believe moving forward, they should portray him, and I believe they will portray him simply as a hero. And I think that's the way for them to go. All right, last question of the day. This one comes from Grant Rowlings, who writes, "Hey guys, Grant here. Sweet show." Well, thank you, Grant. "I'm just wondering, with The Wolf of Wall Street hitting theaters in November 2013, do you think Leo DiCaprio has a chance for some good Oscar buzz? I think the reason behind Leo taking a break after that movie is because he doesn't seem to be getting the momentum he deserves. It is, after all, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio. The Academy seems to hate him. No Django nomination? Thoughts?" Well, Grant, first of all, let me say I am one of Leonardo DiCaprio's biggest supporters. I think this guy is in the top 5 best actors working today. I really do. I think he's just that good. Every time he is in a movie, there has to be some Oscar consideration. And Leonardo DiCaprio has gotten Oscar consideration. He hasn't won one yet, but he's gotten Oscar consideration, and he will win his Academy Award eventually. I guarantee it, he will. But the Academy Award is a very, very difficult thing to win. And I don't think the Academy hates Leonardo DiCaprio at all. And I'll be frank with you. I don't think, as much as I love Leonardo DiCaprio, he didn't deserve an Academy Award nomination for Django Unchained. He was really, really good in it, but that particular character wasn't in the same league, as far as I'm concerned, as with Hugh Jackman's Jean Valjean or Daniel Day-Lewis or, the other actors that did get nominated this year. I thought the character was great in Django. I thought Leo portrayed it great, but that was it. It wasn't really up to that, the same level that, like, say, the Jean Valjean character was, and that Hugh Jackman was able to bring to that. And so I don't, as a Leo lover, I don't think he got snubbed this year. I think that it was a totally legit thing that he didn't happen to get nominated, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he was great in it. As far as Wolf of Wall Street goes, obviously, I think there's already Oscar buzz because, like you mentioned so astutely in your email, it's Martin Scorsese and it's Leo DiCaprio. And honestly, I don't think Leo taking a break from acting has really anything to do with the fact that he hasn't gotten a lot of Oscar love yet. I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think he's a hardworking dude. He's also got a lot of social projects that he works on. He's got a lot of environmental issues that he's very passionate about that he works on. I just think the dude's got a lot that he does and a lot on his plate. And I think that's probably why you're looking at him. Plus, you're talking about a guy who has been an actor since he was like 10 and consistently working. And I think a dude like that, who's given us as many good movies as he has, who's worked as hard as he has, who's as socially active as he has, hey, if the dude wants to take a break, I'm totally for that guy taking a break. I think it's well deserved. So yes, there will be Oscar buzz. No, I don't think he's stepping away because of Oscar snubbing. And no, I don't think he was snubbed for Django. Because personally, as a Leo lover, one of the top 5 best actors in the business today, I didn't really think he deserved a nomination for that particular film. But that doesn't mean he wasn't great in it, because he was. Anyway, folks, that will do it for me for today, all the time we got. But listen, while I got you, before you do anything else, take a second and click that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's totally free, and it'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, plus our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And listen, don't forget, come back and be with us next week, because I will be doing the show from Las Vegas, Nevada, and bringing you all the news on what's coming up this year as the studios make their presentations to me about what's going on in the world of movies this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, so please join me again for next week. Until then, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.